And we are live. Welcome everyone to another episode of Containers from the Couch. I'm your host, Carlos Santana. I'm an AWS Specialist Solutions Architect, working with the EKS service team and also a CNCF ambassador. And today we have a special guest. We're going to be talking about Argo Rollouts and VPC Lattice. So we have with us Nikit. Hi, Nikit.
Hello, how are you today?
Doing good. Tell us
Awesome.
what is your role in AWS?
So, I'm a solutions architect covering enterprise customers here in Singapore. And my major roles and responsibility is like meeting customers, understanding their pain points. Either it's about migration or any container solution or GenAI problems. So that's my role. So I basically cover key enterprise accounts. Yeah,
That's excellent. So
yeah,
today's episode, we're going to be talking not about Argo CD. We do a lot of episodes of Argo CD. I did one recently with Michael and Katie.
yeah.
So we're going to be talking about Argo rollouts, something that a lot of customers ask us, like, how do we do promotions, right? Rollouts in a safe way that we can roll back, do Canary deployments. And I think you have a special use case today that you have done with some customers around Canary deployments and VPC Lattice and something about API gateway. I don't understand that well, but I think you're going to tell us more, right?
Yeah, so that's right. So today's demo is about how we can do Canary with Argo Rollout and VPC Lattice. So the idea is most of our customers, and even after end of life of AppMesh, we are telling customers to use VPC Lattice for the simplification of application layer networking for service to service communication. So that's where VPC Lattice comes into the picture, and VPC Lattice also provides your weight-based routing. And so to automate that, we are basically going to use Argo Rollout. So that's
Yeah.
the whole
I have
presentation
worked
about.
with I have worked with the VPC Lattice, and I try to describe it like a magic show. Like, have you seen those magic shows where you have like the assistant in one box, and then they put a something over it, and then they have a box empty in the other side, and magically that assistant shows up in the other space. Like that's how I feel like VPC Lattice. You're communicating from one VPC to another VPC, and there's no transit gateways. There's no peering. It feels like magic. The packet goes from one side and then it shows in the other one. And the good thing is it can go to EC2, Lambda, ECS, Kubernetes to Kubernetes, Kubernetes to Lambda. It doesn't matter which endpoint you're hitting from that VPC to another VPC, but there's no transit gateway, which I think that's what people were used to do. VPC Lattice is something that abstracts that and also implements the API gateway. So tell us more about this and the open source integration.
Yeah, sure. So I have this solution prepared to showcase you how VPC Lattice work and how we can also do like cross VPC communication from one service to another service. So first, I will talk about a single cluster Canary scenarios where I will be having two different services, and it will be like one will be stable and another will be Canary, and how Argo Rollout will interact with the VPC Lattice Gateway API controller. So before diving deep, I want to talk about the solution overview. So in this demo, what I'm using is Amazon EKS, which will be container platform. So I'm using this for running the application workload. And then VPC Lattice for your weight-based routing and also for service-to-service communication. And then Argo rollout will be getting used for rollout for the application service. And then doing the rollout, I would also want to do some sort of health check as well as some sort of text verification, like automated test. And that will be something that will be done using CloudWatch synthetic canaries. So these are the couple of services and tools that I'm using for this particular demo. Yeah.
And Argo rollouts would integrate with both, right? It would integrate with VPC Lattice and somehow also integrate with CloudWatch. So the developer, the platform engineer, he only needs
Yeah.
to be aware of Kubernetes APIs like those YAMLs, Helm charts, that it's a definition of the Argo rollouts and API gateway, right?
Yeah, you are on point. So basically, we have so Argo Rollout provides the extension to the different traffic managers. So Argo Rollout has this canary strategy which it actually relies on the traffic manager as well. So something like Istio or Linkerd, and then it also supports something called plugin. And this plugin provides the open source contributors to create their own plugin. And one of the plugin is called Gateway API plugin for the Argo Rollout itself. Now, this plugin basically interacts with your Gateway API controller, which sits on your Kubernetes cluster. And that's how Argo Rollout will interact to the Lattice controller to modify the HTTP route using this plugin. So the plugin is the interface between Argo Rollout and then the EKS cluster Lattice controller. So that's how it works. And when it comes to connecting with, some sort of monitoring tool, we have something called analysis template. Sorry, analysis template in Argo, which you can write, and over there are multiple providers. So CloudWatch is also one of the provider that you can use to sort of query and get the metrics out from there. And based on that metrics, you can actually decide whether to promote or to like abort. So that's the strategy.
Excellent. I want to learn more about Argo rollouts because a lot of the documentation online and blog posts, it's always Argo CD, Argo CD. And the Argo project is composed of different projects. We have Argo events, we have Argo workflows, we have Argo CD, and we have Argo rollouts. So Argo rollouts is something that a lot of customers ask about doing rollouts, but I don't think they can find that much documentation as much as Argo CD. So I think it's excellent to learn about that today. So let's move on to the next section.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before that, Argo Rollout relies on the traffic manager to do the weight-based adjustment. Now, here is one example how VPC Lattice can do the weight-based adjustment. So over here, so let's say there is this service 1 running in VPC 1, and it wants to communicate to service 2, which is running in VPC 2. And then if you want to like do some sort of weight adjustment, you can simply do it from the Lattice. So in the Lattice, you can actually go and modify the listener rules, and you can provide that 90% of the traffic should go to the stable version or the version 1, and rest of the 10% should go to the newer version. And that's how you do the weight-based routing in Lattice. So this yeah.
And this is a east to west, west to east traffic, right? Where maybe probably you have different in organization, you have different teams in charge of different services, right? APIs, and then like one service team can be in charge of like 2 Kubernetes clusters and another Kubernetes cluster, so they can communicate. But in case of VPC Lattice, it supports all services. It could be Lambda, it could be EC2, it could be Kubernetes to Kubernetes. So it really doesn't matter. So providing the Canary deployment is a safe way to move traffic to the new version slowly, and you monitor, right? Because sometimes you would do functional testing, right? That the app works, so the API, the new version of the API works, but on the heavy load, right? When all the traffic goes directly, it could be like cannot scale that quickly, right? Or it could be like maybe needs adjustments to be able to sustain the traffic based on the new requirements of the new service, right? It doesn't work like the old one. So Canary deployment is always a good way of doing that strategy of rollout.
Yeah, you are right. So to verify whether the new service is working fine, and if it doesn't, then roll back. So yeah. Now the next one that is about path-based routing. So let's say like your service 1 wants to communicate to service 2 over a certain API path, then you can just provide multiple listener rules over there. So it also supports path-based policy. So let's say, for example, /API parking, it will go and like it will route the traffic to a service which listens on this one. API parking, and then it will if the service hits the API endpoints like /API inventory, so it'll go to another service which is running on in VPC3. So this is one of the another use case that will be provided by Lattice.
And now, I see here in instance there's a link local, right? So this is kind of like the magic bit where like if like you have an application or process that wants to hit that host name of the VPC Lattice, actually doesn't go out, it goes down because it's a link local IP address that can resolve that host name, and it just goes to the Nitro and the network infrastructure that we have, right, on EC2, and then it shows up in the other VPC just by magic. It's a lot of infrastructure and networking folks working behind the scenes, but we want the end user just to not worry about packets being lost or how do we connect things. It just goes down to the EC2, right, to the link local, and it just shows in the other side.
Agree, and it also does not go out over the internet. Lots of our customers, they always worry about, oh, is it going over the internet and then going to other service? So no, it's all happening within AWS network backbone, actually. Yeah. Right. Then there is host-based routing. So again, if you have provided like one particular host or domain to route to one of the service, so it will basically adjust that way as well. So this is about the host-based routing. So these are
Route 53, right? That will be like a local Route 53 or that you configure a special host name that then it maps to the C name of the VPC Lattice, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Now let's talk about the Gateway API controller for Lattice. So we mentioned in the beginning that when we are using Lattice and when we are creating any sort of service or like the routes, we don't have to learn specific configurations or any sort of custom code. So while creating the Lattice construct, you can simply rely on Gateway API controller. So you can actually create the custom resource definition, and then you can basically create gateway, which actually means service network in Lattice world. So over here, I have shown the mapping for, so if you're creating gateway, it'll create your service network. If you're creating HTTP route, it'll create Lattice service. And then similarly, your Kubernetes service will be sort of like a target group in Lattice service. And then the pod will be the actual target. So later I will showcase all these things in the console, how it looks like. Now, one of the thing is like about the gateway class. What is something that we are talking about over here? So gateway class is construct from the gateway API controller by Kubernetes, where it actually asks you or tells you that you can use any sort of gateway controller. Either you can use Lattice or you can use something else, but you have to create a gateway class with the controller name. So how it looks like in manifest file, I will show it later as well.
Yeah, it's the similar concept that we have for CSI, right? You have a class, storage class, or ingress, right? You have ingress class. So you can have multiple controllers that can satisfy the CRD. So in this case, API Gateway has more than, I'm looking at the page right now, more than 50. We have like things like K Gateway, Glue, Istio, Kuma, Kong, all these things actually run on Kubernetes, so they run on EKS. But in this case, VPC Lattice bring you the VPC from VPC to VPC traffic, right? Or within same VPC, but the power is when you're moving packets from one VPC to another, and you don't want to configure probably doesn't make sense in your use case to configure a transit gateway or peer, right? Peer a VPC. In some cases, that's the solution, right? That's the best solution. In some other cases, you say, actually, you don't need that. You can solve it with VPC Lattice in a more easy way. But those gateway classes, those APIs that you see there, just Kubernetes, right? Just two Kubernetes APIs that you will use in any Kubernetes. So if you're moving from on-premise, for example, right, you could be using something like Istio, right? And then if you want to move to EKS in the cloud, maybe you can choose VPC Lattice because you're moving from one VPC to another.
Yeah, agree. And so if we talk about like the gateway, which is service network over here, so you were right on the point. Like in the service network, it's like a logical container of the network where you can actually bring in services from multiple VPC. So you associate those services from different VPC, and then you can actually allow to communicate with each other, or you cannot allow as well. So you can use the auth policies to actually control the communication. And another thing is like you also can have observability and logging mechanism. So those features are also available.
So anything that goes through the network of VPC can be observed.
Yeah, you are right. So there is observability options as well. So you can firstly like enable the logging, and from there you can actually trace out all the communication from one service to another service for VPC Lattice.
Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
Great.
So moving on, this is something that I was mentioning. So Argo Rollout, I'm pretty sure that most of the audiences are available. So Argo CD, Argo Rollout, Argo Workflow. Now, this is actually a plugin. I was mentioning that Argo Rollout basically relies on Traffic Manager. And the Traffic Manager, by default, there are a couple of Traffic Manager mentioned into the website, like your Istio, AppMesh, and other Traffic Manager.
Even AWS
Then
Load Balancer is one of
even the
the
balancer is there.
yep.
Yeah, I agree. And over there, you will also find something called plugin, which provides you another extension as a traffic manager. And this is something called Gateway API plugin that Argo Rollout uses. And over here, you can see the Gateway API plugin. As Carlos, you mentioned that the Gateway API has multiple list of controllers,
Oh,
right?
yep.
So these are some of the controllers that actually supports Gateway API. And when we install, like there are steps, like once you create the EKS cluster, you create the gateway API CRDs, then you install the Lattice controller, and then Argo rollout controller, and then you basically use this config map in the Argo rollout. And basically over here, you are getting a traffic router plugin, and there is you can just provide the plugin path, and you restart the controller of Argo Rollout, and then your Argo Rollout will download this plugin, and you will be good to go to use this plugin for adjusting the weight or doing any modification into the HTTP route of Lattice controller. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the location is just a URL pointing to the binary, right, release of the
Yeah.
plugin.
Yeah.
But in enterprise for production, probably you will grab that binary or compile the binary in-house and then host it on an HTTP like S3 or some
Yeah. Yeah.
URL that you can get to it. Some even air gap.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, definitely it supports air gap as well. So location, you can provide HTTPS location, or you can provide file location as well. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. So now let's move on to the demo application. So this is application that was created by one of our AWS architect, Prasida, and she basically created this polyglot application using 3 different microservices. So one is front end, which actually communicates to product catalog. So front end provides you a UI where you can actually provide your product ID and product name, and the product catalog will basically do the CRUD operation on to catalog detail. So this is the sample application. Now, the version 1 of this particular application, whenever we go to the website, we provide the product details, like, for example, ID1, and we can just write, for example, MacBook. It will show the vendor as abc.com. So that's version 1 of the application. So always, whenever we are hitting version 1, in the text, it will show abc.com. And when we'll be rolling out the Canary for second version, then we will see that there is another vendor added called xyz.com. So these are the differences between two, version of catalog detail. Yeah. So I was just giving an overview of how the application will look like. Now,
Yeah, one thing
yeah,
about like you brought an app here that also Canary rollouts people use is to do actually testing. Sometimes you
yeah,
want to just say we want to test 10% of the traffic that goes into our application, send it to the new version because we want to collect some metrics or understand how is the people liking the new versions versus the old version, or right, it's just for testing, not that necessarily that you're going to do the whole blue green, but you want to do some canary testing. But you can also say, well, after the testing of that 10%, right, that we waited some time, or we just did testing, or we did some analysis of sentiment analysis of why people like the new version, then you start doing the steps to go to 100%, right? And maybe that's the version that we roll out.
Yeah, I mean, you can either do the analysis through the sentiment, or you can do the health check as well, or you can try to see how the new version of the application looks like. So you can actually, that's why where I was coming, like Canary synthetics. So you can use that one. It also supports like Selenium sort of code. Later, I will show you how the UI looks
Right.
like, how what sort of workflow you can define, and you can integrate this workflow in the Canary analysis template. And based on that, you can actually roll out or you can promote. So yeah,
Excellent.
you roll out based on some sort of checks and matrices. Yeah, right. Right. So now moving on to, so this is the whole architecture looks like. So as I mentioned that there are three services: front end, product catalog, and then we have a product detail. So in the previous slide, I was mentioning about three microservice. So front end, product catalog, and product details. So over here, for the illustration purpose, I have mentioned that there are two version of it. One is stable, which is version 1, and then there is a canary, which is version 2. And how the product catalog is communicating to product detail is using the Lattice service. So I have created a Lattice service only for one specific service, product detail, and product catalog will be communicating to the Lattice product detail Lattice service domain name. And over here, I have mentioned that whenever we create the Lattice service, it basically will be having a listener rule. And then listener rule will be actually referring to the actual service of the product detail. And then it will be having an actual target like your pods. So this is the whole architecture. And now let's say if we are
And then on
rolling,
the right you have the YAML, right? The YAML that has the HTTP route of
yeah,
I see rules, right?
you mean, oh yeah, the backend reference, correct. So how it works is when we create the HTTP route, it basically will go and create the listener rules in your Lattice service. And then over here, the backend reference that you are seeing, product stable service, it is listening on port 3000, and product detail canary service. So this part is basically, if you see next to the listener rules, so these are the basically two of the rules. And currently, if you will see this snippet, there is no weight mentioned over here, right?
Yeah.
So in the beginning, when you will create it, so all the traffic will go to the stable service, and then once you will do the Argo rollout using some weight adjustment, then it will automatically go and modify this specific file. So what
And
will
that wait,
happen is, and it will tweak this specific file of HTTP route, which will actually talk to your VPC Lattice controller, and VPC Lattice controller will trigger this listener rule to modify the weight. So it is actually
okay,
happening at the Lattice service layer. Yeah.
got it.
And over here, there are two more construct, as you can see that CloudWatch synthetics. So there is analysis template, which basically runs an analysis run. And what this analysis run is doing is whenever the new version gets deployed, it basically goes and do two checks. First one is whether the new version is healthy or not. So it will do like 200 status check on this particular load balancer, because this is the actual application endpoint. And then what it does is like it will go and try to grab a specific text from the website. So there is some thing called elements. When you do the inspect and you go to the specific division of your website, you get the element ID and those sort of things. So from there, I got the xyz.com and I put into the Canary synthetics. And what Canary synthetics will do is like it will go and try to look for this specific text as well. So there are two checks happening. One is a health check of the application endpoint, and then it is also going and looking for a specific text over there. And if it works fine, if it's available, then it also sees like based on the period interval of 5 minutes, what is the success rate, whether it's 10%, 20%. And based on that, it sets the weight and like do the rollout. Yeah. So I will show from the snippet that will give the more like explanation actually.
Okay.
All right, so now I will quickly jump to the demo. So let me
Let me move you to your desktop. Yeah. So we see
yeah.
the address console here.
Thank you. So this is the AWS console, and let me quickly jump to the VS Code. So as I was mentioning that I have three services. So front-end deployment, it's a standard Kubernetes deployment file. It's using over here. And then we have something called front-end service, a deployment and the service. And then we have product catalog over here. So product catalog. And if you see, the product catalog was communicating to product detail, but how will it communicate? So you will have to provide either the local service DNS, or you can use the Lattice. So what I did is like previously itself, I have created a Lattice service for product detail, and it actually generated me a DNS name, and I have provided it over here. So whenever product catalog will make a call to product detail, it will use this particular DNS, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is about it. And then, as I was mentioning that for product detail, I have, instead of creating a deployment, I have created rollout, because I will be doing rollout in this one. Yeah. And this is the product detail rollout. And one thing I wanted to highlight over here is this is the place. So in strategy, we go to the Canary, and we are providing over here traffic routing and then the plugin. So this is the plugin that I was talking about. So Argo Project Labs, Gateway API, and the HTTP route that it will go and modify. Now, how the HTTP route will look like? Before going to that, let me showcase the config file that I was talking about, where Argo plugin is configured. So I believe
With
it's
the
this one.
location. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the location over here. The config map. So you apply this, then you do sort of rolling restart
We'll
for
start
your
to
Argo.
pick up the new
Yeah, pick up the
configuration, the
plugin.
config map.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. Yeah. And now coming back to the product detail rollout. So as we just understood about the plugin, now let's talk about the HTTP route. As I was showing the snippet in the presentation itself. So
Yeah,
HTTP route was
this
something.
one looks a little bit better. I think in the slides was a little bit
Yeah.
marked for the format wasn't clear. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the HTTP route. Now over here, I'm going from bottom to top. So this is HTTP route, and if you will see over here that it is referring to a parent, this is basically your Lattice service. And how I created Lattice service is using something called gateway. So if you will see, all this manifest file is not using any sort of custom code. It is
Vendor.
basically using like your normal Kubernetes manifest file, and the way you write it, right? So your gateway networking API, and you are just providing the name over here, and then the gateway class. So remember, earlier we were talking about any sort of controller that we use. So over here we provide the gateway class as like Amazon VPC Lattice, and here we provide the annotation Lattice VPC Association True. So this is the way we create the service network, and the name of the service network is LatCan Service Net. So this is a service network. I covered HTTP route, which basically referring to the parents,
The
which is the
gateway.
service network. Yeah. And these are the two backend reference. Now, this backend reference is nothing but your actual service file of Kubernetes. Now, if you look how it look like, it will be somewhere here. There you go. So this is the product stable service, referring to your product detail deployment pod, and this is the Canary service. So whenever there will be a Canary replica, the Canary replica will be tied to this Canary service, and then it will actually go to your HTTP route, the listener, and then it will have the communication with other services. So this is the whole stitching of different services using the rollout. Now, what I will do is I will quickly show what is running at the moment. So kubectl get pods -a. So I'm running these application services front end and product catalog in a namespace called workshop. So if you see, we have two deployments, front end and product catalog. Currently, we do not have your product detail service. Now, what I will do is like I will create the product detail service. Where it is. Yeah, I like to apologize when I say like product details service. I mean like the application service rather than the Kubernetes service. So it sometimes it gets mixed up. So yeah, I will say I will create a product detail rollout. And before creating it, I also wanted to show that we covered the gateway API plugin part and then the Canary service and stable service. So this is the service that it refers to. And over here is the steps where it actually goes in the analysis phase, where it goes and do your checks from the your CloudWatch, right?
So in this
So
case, the first step is doing a CloudWatch analysis, right? What?
yeah, so what I'm doing is first I am actually triggering the CloudWatch Canary to actually start first. So
I
how I
see.
configured CloudWatch Canary is before jumping to the actual UI, let's go through the Canary and sorry rollout analysis. So I think this is the one, analysis template. And here I am using a job actually rather than using a provider, because here I'm actually triggering the AWS Canary synthetics, CloudWatch synthetics, and I'm using a service account. So basically I'm using IRSA, URSA, I am role for service account, and it has a limited permission. And based on this, what this job will do, first it will trigger the CloudWatch Canary. And then once it triggers, then if you will go over here, so this is to trigger CloudWatch Canary to start it, and then it will do the weight adjustment. So once the weight is adjusted, the CloudWatch Canary will keep on looking for the endpoints, and it will go and do two checks. Now, what that two checks is mentioned over here: success rate 80 and 20. So this is another analysis template. Let's go ahead and look at the template name over here.
So
So
it after
yeah,
setting up 20, so it was set first 20% and then do the next analysis template. So if the CloudWatch worked, make it 20%, and then we're going to do another analysis template, which is this one.
yes, correct. So first start the synthetics canary, and then adjust the weight, and then it will keep on like verifying the matrices. And how it does is like using this analysis template. So earlier I was talking about the provider over here. So this is the metrics provider CloudWatch, and over here I have set
I
up like
see.
interval.
So the
Yeah,
first one was just starting to collect metrics, and
yeah,
then set it to
correct.
20%, right? So maybe the 20% was just as a first step. Set it to
Yeah, yeah,
20%. Start the CloudWatch to start collecting metrics, and then
yes.
this analysis is actually like evaluate the metrics. Like let's read the metrics.
Yeah, correct. And during the evaluation, there are two matrices. So one is like just navigate to URL and whether see like whether the application is working. So it is basically just doing a health check, like 200 status check. The name of the Canary synthetics is this one, product detail version 2 synth Canary. I will show in the console later. And then the second thing is about verified text. So as I was mentioning that it goes and look for something called xyz.com.
I see. So
So
the first part at the top was like, is it serving is there something in that endpoint serving traffic? And then the
yes,
second one is like, is the traffic actually the V2?
yeah, exactly, yeah. And yeah, so this is how we actually configure in the analysis template. And I have done some tweaking. So I wanted to, after adjusting the weight of 20, it will check the success condition. And as I was mentioning that even if it gets the data even after 20%, how many times it is actually getting even after doing the weight adjustment, right? So I have mentioned at the interval of 5 minutes, if the success rate is less than 50, then actually it should be, yeah, then it should not proceed actually. So 50 is the
Success is
50%.
more than 50 that I get good results. That's enough. That's enough to be confident, right?
Yeah, to be
One could
confident.
be
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 just lucky, right?
Yeah,
But if you
yeah,
get 50,
agree.
like this thing is actually working.
Correct. Yeah. So this is how I have provided the success condition. And of course, like you can provide a failure limit. So I have mentioned over here 10. Reason being is like Canary synthetics goes and look in every 1 minute interval. And although your verified URL will be good, as in like navigate to URL will be good, but the chances of getting your text will be slightly slower. So I have given like multiple retries over here. So that's what the failure limit talks about. So it does gives you like multiple retries on that part, right? Now, how does it look like in console? Is let's have a look. So this is the synthetic Canary CloudWatch, and this is my product detail version 2 synthetic Canary. If we have to create Canary from scratch, then we just click on create Canary, and you can create GUI workflow builder. And here you can see there is something called verified text, right?
It's
And verify
a
selector.
few like out of the box common
Yes.
things, right, that people use, right? But you can write something custom. But most
Yeah.
likely this is a good ones to get
Good
started.
start. Yeah, correct. So you can use this, and what it does is like it also generates your script, but it will be remain into the synthetic Canary console itself. So it's basically like a serverless way of mechanism. So
So oh my
whenever
god,
you are running,
we're running code in CloudWatch.
yeah,
I can put here
yeah,
some Bitcoin, like not just this is a real sandbox, right? Limited even
yeah.
for the purpose of testing.
Yeah, correct. So as I mentioned that over here, it only allows you specific script and configuration. It provides you Node.js, Puppeteer,
And
Python,
Python,
like,
right?
yeah,
Python, yeah, that's good enough. Like those two languages are very
yeah,
popular.
yeah.
Yeah, so you don't
And
have to
these
rely
are,
on Curl or Bash or awk and parse, right? You can use a
yeah,
modern language like Node.js or Python to evaluate your website.
yeah. And once you create this, you will have something like this. So just want to give you a glimpse of how it looks like. So I created, I tried to run it earlier. And if you will see here, these are the 2 steps, like navigate to URL, passed, okay, verify text, failed. Now, if I want to see like how it actually looks like, so it also provides you
Oh,
screenshot.
precious,
So if you'll
right?
see like, this is the one, navigate to URL and verify text. Over here, if you see that, okay, yeah, it goes over there just for starting, but it actually fails when it tries to get the xyz.com.
XYZ is missing in this
Yeah,
language. Yeah.
yeah. So you can see that it also provides you the screenshot. So yeah. Now, and this is the success rate that I was talking about, and this is something that you can configure 5. And this custom is something that you define the interval into your Canary, sorry,
Okay.
analysis template. Yeah.
And all
Now,
this is consumed from Kubernetes YAMLs, right? The configuration of Argo rollouts and AnalysisTemplate.
yeah, all this will
Right.
be consumed from there. Yeah. Now
Okay.
let's
Excellent.
go ahead and start. I mean, I will. So currently, there is no service of product details. So what I will do is, oops, sorry. Now, what I just did is like I deployed the first version. So, so when we execute a rollout file for the first time, it does not go and do any sort of analysis run. This is the default behavior of Argo rollout.
Get
So
the
if you
first
see,
version deployed, right? There's nothing to
yes, correct.
roll out. It's just the first version.
Yeah. And now if I'll go over here, it's up and running. Let's see. So this is my application running now, right? And it has abc.com. There is this product ID and MacBook. Very simple web application for demo
Okay.
purpose. Now, what I will do is I will modify the image. So I will do the set image. I'm using the kubectl Argo Rollout set image. So it will basically go to the rollout file and it will modify this particular
The
image
image to
over
bump,
here. Yeah,
yeah, to bump it.
yeah,
So now
yeah,
it's the new image and the previous image.
yeah. And once I did that, now what I will do is I will quickly go over here, watch. Now we can see that it triggered analysis job, which was start Canary, right?
Start.
And it says successful. So previously my Canary was in stop state. Now let's refresh, and it is in running state right now. And what I will do is like I will verify the success percent. If it's less than 50%, then it will abort and it will try to roll out. So let's see that it'll take some time over here. Yep.
Less than 50% over the 5 minutes, right? Whatever interval you configure in the YAML file.
Yeah, so over here I have mentioned like if it's less than 50% over the interval of 5 minutes, even after adjusting the weight of 20, then yeah, it will like about. So now if you'll see over here, the set weight is 20. Now let's jump to the lattice part, right? So we were talking about how lattice does the weight adjustment. So previously I was talking about the service lattice service network. So this is the LATCAN service network. Sorry, LATCAN service network. When we use the gateway manifest file to create gateway, it actually created the service network over here. And after that, we use the
The
this
HTTP
particular
routes.
HTTP route, and then we have this service association, and this service has two listener. So one is your stable and one is
I see.
Canary. So now if you recall that when we were doing the rollout, it adjusted the weight 20, and this 20% is now listening to Canary service. Now what I will do is like I will quickly do multiple
So
time
for every
refresh.
100 requests, about 20 of them should go to XYZ, right?
So
For every
80%,
10, every 2,
yeah,
right?
80% of the requests will go to the service stable, and then the 20% will go to the Canary. So version 2 basically. And I was just doing a refresh, and when this xyz.com came, like I stopped just to show like yes, like it's working. Now if I'll do refresh again, so again the
Yeah,
traffic is going to
abc.com
version
is,
1.
yeah, 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is how it is working. Now let's go back to the rollout again. Oops. Now it's in pause state because it is collecting the metrics, and then it will again run the analysis. And if it does not have the 50% success, what it will do is like it will go into the abort stage.
So whatever are
Let's
is what you configure in the Argo rollouts, right? Then the steps.
yeah. So if you go over here, all right. So if you see that analysis run has started, it did like one fail over here. So one check is for whether the application health is okay, as in like 200 status check, and then this one is for verified text. So one is failed.
Yeah, verified text
Uh,
you cannot expect because it's like 20% of the calls will have the text,
yeah,
80% will
yeah,
not have the text. So you have to give it enough tries to see
retries. Yeah.
if the XYZ is showing.
Correct. Now, if you see, we are from Argo rollout command itself, you can see the progress, and you can see right now we are at step 3, and the step 3 is to do the check, and currently it is running over here. Now it will do multiple retries, and if it
And all this
goes
is
through,
captured, all this information is captured in the status field of the Argo rollout CR, right, of the resource. that that you can eventually, like teams can just read that information programmatically, right, and start sending notifications to Slack or notifying how things are going, right? If this is a rollout that takes the whole day, for example, they can progressively check things, how things are going, like is it going okay, until something fails, and they don't have to do anything, right? It's just being informed that Argo rollouts will roll back to the previous version, right? It's not necessarily that you have to panic. It's just seeing like things are rolling out, and teams can be dealing with hundreds of services. It's not just one. Like we're showing here, maybe this is a startup, like one hand service, but platform teams, when they use ECAS, is hundreds and thousands of services.
Yeah, and you are right. So Argo Rollout also have the notification annotations, which you can actually integrate with your multiple channels like Slack or other channels, which it can actually invoke and provide you the notifications. Yeah, even on the, let's say some rollout failed and you want your team to get notified either on some sort of channel. So that is something that you can configure as well. Yeah. So now we can see.
So I got 3 correct.
Yeah, 3 failure. Let's quickly jump to the CloudWatch console and try to see what's the success rate looks like. So it looks like 20% over here at the interval of 5 minutes. And yeah, and we have given the success percent to be minimum 50. So let's see. All right, so it took exactly 3 minutes because CloudWatch Canary checks in 1 minute interval, and since I was mentioning like 3 failure limit, so it did 3 retries at the 3 minutes interval, as we can see the time. And if we see that the failure limit is less, and it degraded, so it basically aborted the your rollout. So rollout aborted. And now what will happen is all the traffic will roll back to your version 1. Yeah. So, and you can also see like it is actually terminating the Canary replica as well. So this is the whole way that you can use the rollout.
And this is very difficult. This is deploying a new version usually is super easy for teams, right? They just put the new version, and if they use just the normal deployment from Kubernetes that has a strategy of rollout, it would just roll out in batches those pods, right? And eventually all traffic. Argo rollouts are bring, and then people ask like, well, if there's something wrong, how do I roll back, right? And this is the answer, right? Argo rollouts will roll you back. So the superpower of Argo rollouts is rolling back when something wrong happens, right? People think like it's always a happy pass. Happy pass is the normal things every day, right? Where it's very difficult is how do I evaluate and detect that something's wrong and roll back, right, automatically. So Argo rollout is doing all the work of like terminating the Canary deployment, is not longer valid, and then going back to the stable, and then 100% traffic goes back to a stable, right?
Yeah. Right. So as we can see that product details scale down over here, rollout is in degraded version, and because the reason was analysis run failed. So yeah, now we can see that the only version available is the stable. And now let's have a quick look. What's the change in the Lattice service? So if you see that because of the rollout, the 100% of traffic moved to the stable version. Sorry, rollback. Yeah. And yeah, so this is how the rollback actually triggered, modified the HTTP route, and adjusted the weight. So
yeah, so to recap, the Argo rollouts is not talking to a VPC Lattice. It's not talking to AWS APIs to change what we see in the screen. Argo rollouts is using the plugin, and the plugin is using Kubernetes APIs, API gateway, which could be behind that, could be Envoy, it could be Kong, it could be Istio. It happens to be VPC Lattice. And that's why Argo Rollout has the integration with VPC Lattice through the API gateway. So that's a good thing that we have a standard now on API gateway that so many vendors and partners can implement it, right, and get the benefits of that standard API that then end users and platform teams just need to deal with that API and not necessarily learn every vendor out there.
Yeah. Now let's go ahead and
So I
now
think
if even if
we
you're,
are, yeah, everything should
yeah,
be abc.com. So we're about to
yeah,
come to an end for today. So we want to go to
yeah,
the slides back
slides, yeah, sure.
to
Right.
end with the takeaways.
So we have one more thing to discuss: multi-cluster scenario with Lattice. In this way, what happens is like we just discussed like how easy it is to communicate from one VPC to another VPC, cross cluster service communication. So in VPC Lattice, we have the concept of service export and service import. So if you see that in the bottom cluster, we have version 2, which we just deployed, and we can do the service export. And in your cluster, which is at the above, which is actually running the version 1, you can actually import the exported service, and then you can modify the HTTP route to do the weight adjustment. So this is the way you can also achieve multi-cluster scenario with Lattice. Yeah. So that's it. Like that's we have. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Nikit, for joining us today and showing us a cool demo on Argo Rollouts and VPC Lattice. So if folks want to learn more, where they can learn more?
So there are guidance available on. There are some sort of links available outside, and we are also publishing blog out of it. So it'll
Okay.
be published soon on AWS blogs page. Yeah.
So we'll add those links here in LinkedIn and YouTube description
Yeah.
of this stream, and we'll see you next time. So keep in touch, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or follow us in LinkedIn. So until next time, thank you so much. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time. Thank you, Nikit.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.